Hello. The hair's all floofy today. I don't know what to talk about. What do you want me to talk about? I keep forgetting the camera's there, not that screen. Oh, God. I can see the size of my weight from looking at this camera. I'm meh, meh. See the chubbiness. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was talking to one of my friends earlier. It was about how people get divorced. I have my own theories on it. Don't know if it's actually true. I just don't have any basis. I just kind of critical think my way through everything. Um, it was like between Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow. They got divorced. I think Chris Pratt and I forget who his former partner was. But they have a kid together. So yeah, fun. Um, what I've been doing is watching the show Tabletop. I'll probably put it in a link below. Uh, because I actually really like that show. Will Wheaton made a show called Tabletop, and I think it was so beautifully done. And it's pretty much just him doing board games and uh, really showcasing these board games. And why his show I think was brilliant is because these games can be like $60. They are expensive. And so you don't want to buy a game and then be like, this really sucks. This is a terrible game. Why did I spend money on it? And I guess today's topic is board games. Um, no, I love board games because uh, I guess also it's the idea behind it. Too many people don't want to spend time together anymore. There's too many video games. There's too many. Um, I don't know. It's just with a video game, it's very different. It can be a little too solo. It can be a little too how do I put it? Video games and TV, there's interaction, but it's not interaction with people sometimes, but it's interaction with yourself. I don't know, because like World of Warcraft, Among Us, which is the new one, these are very social games, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just see. I like board games because it has a way to connect us with other people, and one how I learned this was actually from my teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Kerpusik. Great guy. Uh, I always remember him for doing. We had we had this thing in high school, which was pretty much recess in high school, and he would sponsor chess. You could do whatever you want as long as you don't make trouble, but it was chess, board games, card games, Risk, just anything board game related, and it was interactive. It was engaging. It helped you socialize with other people. I don't know how to put it. Maybe I just don't have this thought down as much as I want. And please don't look at my shirt. Um, it's almost midnight for me. And one of the first games I ever played that he taught me was Catan, Settlers of Catan, and it seems intriguing at first. It seems boring at first, but then it becomes really engaging. Maybe just games in general are amazing. Not just board games, but also video games. But I'm just going to stick with board games because uh, Will Wheaton's uh, Will Wheaton's tabletop show, he actually does this thing where he introduces himself, introduces the game, and then introduces the rules, along with uh, what else? Along with him interacting and playing with actors and actresses, which isn't that important. That's just fun personality. But what makes it fun is actually learning how they interact with each other, how they engage each other, how I mean, there are some people who don't like to role play. They just want to play something that actively engages their mind. Settlers of Catan, that's a great game because it's an actual tool about economy. Because in Catan, there are a number of resources and they're not infinite, they're finite. And you you trade with other people to see if you can get a good deal out of the resources that they have while trying to expand your territory to gain more resources. And in the original game, I believe it was 10 points. It's beautiful. It was well done. It was fantastic. I got tired of the game because it took hours sometimes. It dragged. I thought I loved it, and then it got old. But it does this thing where the greatest thing about board games, card games, is actually learning real life lessons. Those are probably the most engaging kind of games. For example, I told you, Catan. Hold on. Okay, nobody. I told you Catan is the economy. What is another good game? There's a card game called Star Realms, and it's a deck building game. What you do is that you make your own deck, and you try to beat your opponent. Now, the thing is about deck building games, it's all about probability. Uh, what is the chances of this one card coming up? What are the chances of all of these things coming up? And how do you increase the chance of getting those cards up? How do you get what cards do you need to remove? So pretend you have two cards in your deck. You have a 50% chance of getting the card you want. So the so what you do is take all of your bad cards out and you bring in all the good cards. That's what makes it a fun game. What else? What's another good game that I have? There is a game called Concept. That is a very art. It's a very so the game Concept. What you do is that it's charades with the board, and you have to use the pieces on the board to help you explain the thought that you have. So if you wanted to explain, let's say, Avatar: The Last Airbender, I always go with this one. You would put air, water, earth, fire, and then you put boy, and you go, oh, I know that show, and then you put it out. There are cards there, but you can also, you know, use your own imagination for some of these words. Uh, let's see. I'm trying to think. Because all my board games out there. My favorite board game is Pandemic. Um, Oddly enough, we're in a pandemic, and yay! I'm going to try and get everything. Um, no, Pandemic is a great game. It teaches, despite the narrative is the same as what's going on today. You are four people trying to fight four diseases, and you're trying to cure them. The greatest thing about that game is the communication. You all communicate with each other. You all try to work together as a team, building off of ideas, building off of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you figure out how to work everything out. It it's a fantastic game. It really teaches you how to communicate with others, how to be a team player. Um, Teaches you critically that you do have a role in a game. You do have a role as a teammate. Someone can't play this game alone. They have to work with each other, discuss, talk with each other, and see how things work. That's the type of game I like. I also like short games. And by short, I mean like maybe a half hour to 45 minutes, maybe. Because if anyone has played Axis and Allies, uh, they've always told me to, you know, you gotta play for 8 hours. That is if you read the rule book. And I'm not sitting around for 8 hours for a game. Or Risk. Risk is a fun game, but the problem with that board game is that when it comes down to the last two people, everyone is just done. Like, what's the point of conquering the world? The last two people will just duke it out and finish the game. Um, it's pretty much a game that I could only play as computer on the computer. Um, the game. What else? There's Munchkin. That's for that's not a generic game. That's for people who can actually understand a lot of RPG elements. I'm not going to explain that one, but it's a fun game. Um, Love Letter. A friend of mine introduced that to me. Uh, the flavor text of that game is supposed to be there. The princess has a love letter, and she's sending it around. Who who is the one that is giving the love letter? Oh, sorry. Someone is sending a love letter to the princess. Who is sending the love letter? And it's up to us in a way to figure out who is the one that has the love letter. It's an interesting game. It's a micro game. Another micro game means it can last for maybe like 10 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes. It's not meant to be a long game. It's not meant to be, oh, if I wish I did this move. No, it's just, hey, you won. All right, let's go for another round. And the best game for that is called Coup. I love Coup. Um, Mostly because the rules are easy. Um, you don't need a whole lot of cards, and it's just in a small package. And what happens is that in Coup, there are people out there who plays. You get two. I'm not explaining this very well. In Coup, it's a deception game, meaning it's like BS. You have two characters, and you are one of. You know what? I'm not going to explain it. You guys look that up. uh, what's another game? Suro. Suro is a very simple but elegant game. What you do is that you are an explorer in the sea, and it's kind of like the Dragon Sea. It's uncharted territory. So you just get these tiles and you kind of explore the board with these tiles. Uh, but just make sure you don't crash into other players. And if you're playing the advanced version, make sure the dragons don't get you. Fun game. Uh, hmm. Okay, I kind of ranted on about board games, but what I love about these board games is there are different. It does different. Blah, blah. There are different ways to think through these games. There are different lessons that we take from these games. My favorite board game is Pandemic because I love the uh, teamwork aspect. The teamwork in that uh, game teaches us how to actually be a team player, how that we are not useless, how when we have a suggestion, people will have to stop and listen to you because sometimes there is a better idea they have than what we know. That's why I love cooperative games because we all are in this together. Um, Deception games are not my favorite in a sense, but it's fun, especially the game Coup. Um, I'm like I said, I'm not going to explain that. Pretty much, it teaches us how to read people. It's like a poker kind of game. And even if you're not playing those kinds of board games like I've been playing, you can play card games. There was a bunch of card games I learned that deals with math. It's helped me to really get my math down a little easier. I'm terrible for some odd reason. I am terrible with addition and subtraction, but if you give me a multiplication, 1 through 12, not anything like higher than that, but you give me multiplication and I can do it. Like if you said 7 times 9, that's 63. If you say 9 times 9 is 81. If you say, um, I don't know, 8 times 6, that's 48. It's become so memorized and ingrained in me that I know how to do multiplication. Um, Addition, if you said like 7 plus 6, I'm like 13. Yes, it's 13. Something like that. So, one of that the game I'm thinking of is cribbage. If you've never played cribbage, it's a nice small game, but it's really fun to understand. But I think I guess I just ranted on about board games, but essentially there's a lot of games out there that I feel like people are missing out on board games because what board games do is more than just it because with a video game you can play with people online. That is a community. But playing board games with other people, what it does is that it creates another sense of community. It inter it creates an interaction with people. It shows people imaginations. It it's a way for people to role play. It's a way for people another different way for people to escape. And when you can get them to interact with each other, it'd be almost like eh, I don't know, just there's this wondrous thing that happens when people play board games. They bring out different sides of themselves that they didn't know they have. Um, where a video game, it can just be neutral because you're just watching a screen. But when you're talking with other people, you're like, oh gosh, darn it, uh, darn you, darn you. So and and it creates this. It forms a memory. Uh, Man, midnight is not great for me, but it forms a memory. it it's I don't know. I, when you play board games, there is a sense of I don't know. I can't seem to explain myself. I guess the difference is that when it comes to video games, there are games that are really fun, but then after a while loses its luster. Sometimes it takes a while for people to get back into it. At the same point, it depends on when you finally meet people, interact with people, it starts to create a connection, it forms a bond, it makes people invested, it makes people want to be there with you. You want that interaction. I don't know. This is just another rant, you know, my floof. All right, I've overstayed my welcome. Laters.